he spent was a whopping $221 million transporting people from Texas to your state. Something tells me that he could have done something else with that $221 million. In addition to that, I know that there's been some conversations about what's going on. It was supposed to be another high-profile policy debate. The National Public Forum on Economic Stability in Toledo, Ohio, brought together lawmakers, economists, and business leaders. The spotlight was on Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett and Vice President JD Vance, two politicians with vastly different backgrounds, values, and styles. The event started like most political panels, conversations about infrastructure, small business funding, inflation. But it quickly took a turn. Vance, leaning back in his chair with his signature smirk, cut off Crockett in the middle of her speech on economic inequality. She was talking about generational wealth, redlining, and the disparities that persist today, particularly in her district in Texas. But Vance wasn't interested in the facts. Maybe if people spent less time making excuses and more time contributing, we wouldn't be stuck in this cycle, he said with a casual grin, as if delivering a punchline. For a moment, everything froze. The room fell into a heavy silence, the kind you can feel through the TV screen. Crockett didn't flinch. She didn't raise her voice or throw a rebuttal. Instead, she calmly responded, "You're not only wrong, you're reckless. And that comment will follow you longer than you think." That moment became the spark that ignited a national conversation. The viral clip hit social media, spreading like wildfire. Hashtags like Washington Respect Jasmine and Vance Exposed began trending. People from all walks of life took to their phones sharing their reaction. What struck a chord wasn't just the words, though they were offensive. It was the way Crockett handled herself. Calm, measured, unwavering. She didn't give in to the bait. But behind the scenes, Crockett wasn't simply relying on her words. She knew this wasn't just about a political disagreement. This was personal. Her attorney, Brandon Hurst, was on the phone within minutes. They were already planning their next move. "This isn't going away by morning," he warned. The situation was moving fast. The comments, now widely criticized, were no longer just words. They were part of a pattern, a deeper issue about how women, particularly women of color, are often dismissed or belittled in public spaces. Crockett had seen it before, but this time it was in front of millions of people. By the time Crockett returned to her hotel, the media was buzzing. The clip was already everywhere, dissected and replayed. Legal experts were weighing in, breaking down how Vance's comment crossed the line from debate to defamation. Civil rights groups were quick to respond, praising Crockett's restraint. But for Crockett, the public reaction wasn't what mattered most. It was the legal steps she was taking next. In the middle of the night, her legal team finalized a lawsuit, a $100 million defamation case against Vice President JD Vance. But this wasn't just about money. This was about accountability. It was about sending a message that disrespecting someone based on their race or identity had consequences. Her press conference the next day amplified that message. Crockett stood at the podium, calm and composed as the cameras rolled. "This lawsuit isn't about money," she told the room. "It's about boundaries. It's about saying clearly and publicly that when someone weaponizes language to demean another person based on identity or heritage, there must be a consequence." The words resonated with people everywhere, from parents at home to young people in classrooms. Crockett's measured response became a rallying cry. Her message wasn't just about standing up for herself. It was about standing up for every woman, every person who had been made to feel small. And when Vance's camp tried to downplay the incident, Crockett wasn't concerned. The case was in the hands of the courts, and the people had already spoken. Social media exploded with support, and her lawsuit was the focal point of conversations across the country. What Vance hadn't expected was that this moment, his comment, wouldn't just be about politics. It would be about how people respond to being belittled, how they find their voices when silence is no longer an option. By the end of the week, Crockett's story had moved far beyond Toledo, far beyond the political debate. It was about dignity, it was about respect, and it was about showing the world that sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's strategy. In the days following, Crockett's message continued to gain momentum. Media outlets, commentators, and even public figures across the spectrum acknowledged the shift in the national conversation. JD Vance's attempt to humiliate Crockett had backfired, not because of a sharp-tongued retort, but because Crockett had